So there's a great quote I heard on a podcast, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It said, "Date the person, not the potential."
Oh, that's
Date
good.
the person, not the potential. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like the amount of women that have dated my potential, but not dated who I actually was at the time, and that's why the relationship ended. They could see my potential when I couldn't. Like I said, I've had some amazing women in my life. Again, in Europe there's some amazing women, and they saw my potential, but I couldn't see it myself. So it always ended because they didn't date me. They dated the potential, or this ideal version of myself. Whereas actually you saw me and my potential, but you dated me. I saw you and the potential of the relationship. So again, it's a big key thing. Like, again, especially with women, oh, but he'll change for me. Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I'm joined once again by my girlfriend, Katie. Katie, how are we?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm right, thank you. So the reason why Katie's back, by popular demand, two people, no, I'm joking, is we did the podcast episode that I'll link in the description about my journey, my story, and basically Katie interviewed me for that. Went down very, very well. And off the back of that, we had quite a few people sliding into both my DMs and Katie's DMs, basically talking about relationship dynamics. So then we thought it might be quite interesting to basically do a podcast on that. And I then put an anonymous Q&A survey thing on my Instagram, and the response was incredible. So moving forward, we may actually be doing this a little bit more regularly, because for me, it's making you guys part of it as well, because for long-term listeners, you've been part of the podcast for a very, very long time, and then new listeners as well, kind of getting you interactive and involved. So all the questions we've got today, although I've seen them and Katie's seen them, there's been sort of no planning on this. We basically read the questions out, we kind of put them in some sort of order, and that's it. Like, there's been no sort of planning here to give the perfect answer. It's more a case of we wanted it to be real, raw and authentic. And yeah, so I'm going to pass over to Katie to do the little following introduction spiel.
Yeah, when I don't have an answer for one of the questions, then people will realise that we've not planned it. So,
Nope.
So we've got we literally had so many questions, and we've got a variety of questions. Some we've kind of merged together because they were similar, but lots of different themes and things like that. So
Yeah, because some were just for me and some were for you as well, or both of us, weren't they?
yeah. So shall we just dive in?
Yeah, let's roll straight in.
Okay. So question 1.
Yeah.
Define what a successful relationship is.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because when I obviously put this out there, I think the exact wording I'm actually get it up on my Instagram as well. So let me find a specific wording, because it's really interesting. When I put the question out there, I hadn't really thought about this. So the question that I used, so the thing that I actually said was, both me and myself, Katie, got quite a few questions about a relationship dynamic based on the podcast episode. So we're going to do a podcast on successful relationships. So I used the word successful relationships, saying this was a very logical question to come back out of that. Like, well, what is successful? And as I sort of mentioned on the Instagram story, and as I want to make it very clear here, like, neither me nor Katie are here to preach to claim we have the perfect relationship, because we absolutely don't. However, we've got a really good relationship, especially considering that both of us have had really bad relationships in the past, and we're going to sort of dive into some of the questions. So at no point here are we saying that this is how relationships should be. It's just, for us, we're in a very, very good place with this relationship, and we know that some people struggle with that dynamic because we used to struggle. So actually, if we can provide any value today, then that's what this episode's all about. So for me, what is a successful relationship? For me, a successful relationship is when you've got two people that are aligned on the same sort of path and journey and understand each other on a sort of level, and then can communicate that. And I just want to sort of put a bit of a caveat into this, because I'm not sure if it links to any of the later questions, especially when it comes to my past relationships. And I class a relationship as someone who's actually my girlfriend, of which I didn't actually have that many. But my last girlfriend especially, she was the main one I had, and you have said this to you off the podcast, I do not have a bad word to say about her. Mm-hmm. Like, she was not the problem, I was. And then we're going to dive into this in a bit later with some of the questions. But for me, the successful relationship now is the fact that both of us have approached it in a way, I think because we were friends beforehand, when it actually got to the stage of going into a relationship, the dynamic was very different, rather than it sort of being like, oh, you kind of date for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then you're in a relationship, and then you're kind of figuring each other out as you go into the relationship. We knew each other very well before we actually got into the relationship. So I think we both went in beforehand with the understanding of each other and the expectations of the relationship. And as you mentioned on the episode about my story, we were very clear about the intentions and kind of ground rules of what we kind of wanted and expected. And that's then laid a really good solid foundation for us to actually build something. Does that make sense? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, but with this, I would caveat it all with success is different for different people.
Absolutely.
What we class as successful in our relationship could be completely different for other people, and everyone's got their own circumstances. But for me, I agree with everything you say, but just to build on that, for me, a successful relationship or a successful couple are the ones that are having those difficult and comfortable conversations. I don't think it's just about smiling and, you know, jumping the way through life all the time. It's those ones that are communicating, are having those conversations. And for me, what's really important to make a successful couple is to kind of grow together. So growing individually and pushing each other to be the best versions of yourself, but not losing sight of you and your own personal journey as well. Because I think I've been guilty of that in the past, of just kind of losing myself when in a relationship. And I think a lot of people do that as well. I think they just get very fixated on this one thing, when for me it's like, no, there's two single individuals.
We've always seen that
combined together.
We've all got friends. I think people listen to this as well. Maybe this is you, where you basically go into a relationship and then your friends never see you, or you don't see that friend, they just disappear. And then when it doesn't work out, admittedly probably 6 months later, because they've just thrown themselves into the deep end, they then come crawling back, and it's like a recurring cycle. Where actually, for me, my definition of a relationship, and this was again something that it's taken me a while to figure out, and it was just a beautiful analogy that I heard, is a relationship should be two circles that come together to form another circle. And then if it ends, you go back to having your individual circles. Whereas a lot of people in relationships, and I've especially been guilty of this in the past, is someone's got bits missing and they basically try and get it from the other person, or you've got an incomplete circle and then the big circle that is complete can come in and almost dominate in a not great way, almost like a narcissistic kind of way, and control the other person. So again, for me, it's this is just my opinion with this, and if anyone ever asks my opinion, it's I had to be ready to be in a relationship, and that's why when it came to us being in that position, I had to really ask myself that question. And obviously, we're going to talk about with Thea as well, having your little lad involved, brought a different dynamic to it, which made me then have to stop and think. Whereas previously, I hadn't really ever stopped to think: am I actually ready to be in this relationship with this person? Because one of the questions was, "Can you see this?" I'm skipping ahead. Was can you see this relationship lasting? That was one of the questions. Can you see this lasting?
Yeah.
And my response to this is, which ties into this: if you don't see this relationship lasting, this goes for males and females. Like, if you are not entering this and saying that this is going to last, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you wasting your time, energy, effort, money, and again, your youth? Like, why are you wasting potentially 5, 6, 7 years of your life just trying to force something? Especially as guys, I think as well, we almost feel like we have to. Like we have to. And again, I suppose women to extent as well, but I can only speak from a male perspective. Like, when a woman kind of gets that sort of level, it's like, oh, are we kind of going out? And the guy's like, well, yeah, there's nothing really better, so kind of yeah, and you kind of settle. But that's the thing for me, like, that's my commitment. My issue with commitment, I realised, was the fact that I wasn't with the right person. So my issue with commitment wasn't commitment. My issue with commitment was me being with that person and knowing they were not the right person for me.
Yeah.
That was the issue. So to answer the second question, which I know is not the actual second one, like, if you're in a relationship and you're like, well, can you see yourself with this person in the next 5 years? If the answer is no, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. Like, whether people get butthurt by that or not,
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing? Especially if there's kids involved, what are you doing? Because you're making it longer and harder in the long run for yourself. And then it just gets messy. You then, again, wasted 5 years of your life. The whole thing for me is just like, just have a real honest conversation with yourself before you get into a relationship. And if you actually are in one, I'm not saying break up with your partner. What I'm saying is you can still pull it back. But are you actually communicating? Because if you guys don't have a long-term plan, you're kind of just coasting.
Yeah.
In my opinion with this, and again, all this episode is in my opinion. I'm not saying that I'm an relationship expert or not, but I know that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
So, for example, my ex-girlfriend that spoke about before, she always used to say to me, like, oh, we never talk about going on holiday together. And it's like, because I never thought about that. I wasn't thinking that far ahead.
Yeah.
And I knew deep down that it wasn't really right. But I was lying to myself. I really liked her. She was an amazing person at the time. She was my best friend. And I loved that companionship. But as an actual relationship, it wasn't a relationship.
Yeah.
And again, I look back at that and I'm like, I feel bad because, again, I wasted years of her life. So, again, it's me speaking from my personal experience on that. What do you have thoughts?
No, I was just going to say, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you hear so many people, and I think, especially when you kind of get to our age, so we're 34. When we got together, I was not looking for a relationship. I was quite happy, busy working on myself, going on the odd date and things like that, but literally just kind of dipping my toe in the water, but with no intentions of kind of...
Me too.
Getting with anyone. And I think there are so many people that are our age, just to touch on it, that feel that pressure to kind of, you know, society says that, you know, you should be married, kids, house, blah, 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 blah. And I think there is a societal pressure to kind of, to do that. But I very much took myself out of that matrix and was like, no, I want to work on myself. And then obviously we kind of, you know, paths aligned, values and stuff like that. And I think that's really important, that people shouldn't feel pressure, because to settle for someone that they're not compatible with, or they don't want to be with, or not best for them, just because they feel they should.
So there's a great quote I heard on a podcast, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It said, "Date the person, not the potential."
Oh, that's
Date
good.
the person, not the potential. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like the amount of women that have dated my potential,
Yep.
but not dated who I actually was at the time, and that's why the relationship ended. They could see my potential when I couldn't. Like I said, I've had some amazing women in my life. Again, in Europe as well, some amazing women, and they saw my potential, but I couldn't see it myself. So it always ended because they didn't date me.
Yeah.
They dated the potential, or this ideal version of myself. Whereas actually you saw me and my potential, but you dated me. I saw you and the potential of the relationship. So again, it's a big key thing. Like, again, especially with women, oh, but he'll change for me. Okay, you're dating the potential. Like, actually look at what he is now, not what and again, this is going back to my story, like, fuckboy Daniel, don't listen to what people say. Especially as a guy, especially if you are that way inclined, you can very easily manipulate someone with the words that you use. You can tell someone the exact things they want to hear. I did this the other day with a client. I actually sat down and said, if I said this, and this to you, how do you think? And she started to smile and went, there you go. I said, that's how easy it is. I said, you're not in a place to date because all someone's got to do is tell you these certain things and you put it in their hand. I says, you're then going to get manipulated. So I says, don't just listen to what people are saying to you on dates. Actually see them and see their values and what they stand for. How do they speak to the waiter? Do they message you back? Do they value your time? Are they interested in your personal growth? Are they interested in whatever it is that you value? Actually look at their actions, not what they're saying to you, because it's very, very easy to say the right stuff and then because again, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
So date the person, the actual person, their actions,
That's
what they're doing right now.
you.
Yes, that's in front of you, not the potential and what they're saying they're going to do or what they're saying they're going to be. Do you? Because again, I've told you where I'm going. But it's like, do my actions and values and what I'm doing align with going into that? And if the answer is no, then like, okay, well, this person in front of me, he said he wants this, and I love this. I've been sold on this dream, but he's a waster. Like, he's not what? Like, and that's what I don't try and paint red flags white. So again, that's from a podcast I'll link in as well from Keisha Scott, who is a relationship expert. That's one of the best bits of advice I ever got. Don't paint red flags white. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. 11 minutes in, I feel like I've absolutely gone on one.
Yeah, you have.
On it, heating up.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which was, we've had this question lots of different times in different forms, which is really interesting actually. So, how do you deal with conflict in a relationship?
Well, this is a big thing for you, so why don't you start by answering this?
So for me, every relationship I've been in, there has been a lot of conflict, and I'm not naturally a confrontational person, so I've really struggled
Can we
with
define
that.
conflict as well for people? Like, what we're talking about conflict? Not the actual definition. When we say conflict, like, say, you last relationship have had a lot of conflict. Like,
I think just differences of opinions, kind of arguing
cool,
and things like that, really. But for me, and I can safely say that I don't think we've ever had an argument because we don't ever let it get there. And for me, that comes back to communication, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I do think a lot of people in relationships focus on arguments and winning arguments and point scoring. And for me, that's not what it's about. You shouldn't be trying to point score and one up the person that you're in. At the end of the day, it's a team, it's a collaboration. You should be working together, not to try and get those points on the board, so to speak. So I think
people focus on winning the battle, but then they lose the war.
Yeah.
And it's like that for me is a massive thing. Because even like, let's be completely transparent. Yesterday we had a heated discussion. It was not an argument. There was no raised voices. We were literally communicating, but it was very passionately communicating because you had very strong feelings. I had very strong feelings. At the end of the day, I was wrong. So I completely admitted I was wrong. But again, I could have carried on to win. But ultimately, what does that achieve?
Exactly.
So you said your point. I then said my opinion. You then got back at me, and I was like, I'm wrong. So then I apologised. I was like, I need to go away and figure that out. That's my exact words. Because, again, I haven't done that yet. I've not had time to do that. But that's complete transparency for this podcast. It's literally last night. Yeah. Literally last night before this went out. That was it. Like I said, there was no raised voices. It was just two people, kind of like how passionate I'm talking now. That's how we were communicating. Yeah. And then as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, I'm wrong. Yeah. And the thing is, and again, it's a big thing that I want to actually give you credit for on the podcast, is that when you put your point across, I then very heavily defended my position. And old you would have crumbled. Yeah. But actually you didn't. You came straight back and then you redefended what you said and actually added more stuff to it. So that's actually kudos to you and your growth of us actually being together, because when we first started, you could not handle that. Like if you got your point, you could not handle it. If you said something and then I then gave my opinion, you could not handle that. You saw it as a personal attack, when actually last night you didn't. You took what I said, you listened to what I actually said, and then you repeated it back, as in like you then took what I said, didn't take it personally, like what was he actually saying. I think it's also the point when you're in a relationship, people take things personally. Like last night you had a view on something that you got upset about, you then voiced it with me. My then rebuttal wasn't attacking you, it was discussing the situation. It was a situation, not personal attack, whereas previously you couldn't differentiate between us discussing the thing and you taking it as a personal attack. So I just want to give you credit for that, and I haven't really thought about saying that, but that was a big thing I realised yesterday. I was like, fair play, like you literally stood, took a second, and then you carried on because you were very clear on your point you wanted to articulate. So again, that's just a big thing I want to talk about. Communication is such a key thing. I can't remember what the question was.
So the question was about dealing with conflict. So let me just build on that. So to your point, communication is key. I'm going to counter challenge that and say it isn't the communication as such, because you can communicate effectively all you want. I think it's comprehension with the communication. So two people can communicate, but if the other person isn't comprehending it, isn't actively listening to understand, then the communication is futile. So I think for me on this one, it is that having a discussion, communicating, comprehending with a view that you both want to walk away from a situation feeling seen, heard, understood, and that there is a resolution to whatever that discussion may be. And for me, it doesn't have to get to an argument. I personally don't see the point in arguments. I think that's just when you potentially are struggling to regulate your emotions. And I think at times you've tried to speak to me about things and I've said, I'm not in the headspace to deal with this and speak about this right now. I want to process, think, regulate, and then I will come back to you about whatever it may be.
It's normally in the evening. Like our thing is normally in the evening before bed. We just discuss things if there's anything that's there. And also another point on that is that's something we had to work on, because again, I think a lot of women can be guilty of this from my personal experience. Again, I'm sure guys can do it as well. Is that your biggest thing was that you would hold on to something and you'd sit with it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you come back to me with it. And by that time, and again, I've learned this, another podcast, can't remember what the actual term is, that guys can't work like that. Like if you've said it's okay, we kind of shut that cool door's gone. But women need to go away and process it. But then I turned around to you and said that you can't wait that long, because that's just then you're sat there building resentment and anger and finding more things to back up this headspace that you're in. So then actually now you've done a lot better thing of like, when something happens, by the end of the day, if it happens, obviously if it happens in the evening, it's the next day, but you never sit for more than anything for more than 48 hours, and then it gets resolved, so you're not sat with it. And that's a big thing as well, because I had to call you out on that, because I'd be like, why are we having this conversation 3 weeks down the line, because I can't do anything about that now. I can't even remember what we're talking about, but it's such a big thing to you, and then it came across that I didn't care. It's not that I didn't care, I've forgotten about it because you said it was sorted. So again, it's just when something's bothering you, it's like you then take 2 days or 48 hours maximum, and then we have the conversation about it. But it's normally the end of the day, and we put it to bed. And again, to your point, communicating on the level, because I say this a lot on podcasts, is that a lot of males, a lot of women can articulate things very, very well. A lot of guys can't understand it on that level, and that's no disrespect to guys, but we're very, very simple creatures. So if you're trying to be clever and fancy, arguing your point, like just communicate how you know your partner can actually understand it. Don't try and use big fancy words to again win the argument. Actually express yourself very clearly, like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Just get it out there, make it that simple and basic, so that what you're saying can be understood, so that the other person can then actually either counter it, apologize, or you can work together to come with a solution, rather than just trying to use these big fancy words and throw something back at someone that's happened 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. It's like just no, in the moment, can you kind of deal with it as quickly as possible, but for whatever works for you, because you've got to have that cooling off time. You have to have that. So cool. But it's like, can you do it in 2 days? Cool, perfect. So maximum 2 days, we get it sorted, we move on.
And I think in a relationship, if you are choosing to be with someone, you choose to be with them every single day, and you therefore, in my opinion, should choose to find resolutions, not to point score. I think for me, it's like it's a team, it's teamwork, and we want to work together and not against each other, because that's not productive, for anyone. And to your point about the whole, I used to hold things in. My communication used to be abysmal, like absolutely abysmal. And that's not just in a relationship, just in general. I think I just held everything in. I'm naturally one of those people, I guess. And for me, for anyone out there who also does that, I think the whole communicating quickly and resolving, because it was literally sometimes some really, really minor things that I didn't speak about. I think not only is that beneficial for a relationship, I think individually that's helped my mindset and mental health no end, because it's like out of there, it's done, it's moved on, it's no longer residing in my head, if that makes sense.
So then let's use another example that's happened 3 days ago. You sorting out my bowl of oats, and I was sat there on my phone.
Yeah.
You came over to drop the bowl of oats over, and I swiped up on a message to close the app down and put my phone down.
Yeah.
I knew when I did it that it looked dodgy.
Yeah.
But you didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I was like, okay, because there was nothing dodgy about it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of eat my oats and cracked on. It was all good. And then 2 days later, you said to me, by the way, the other day you did this, and it kind of came across, and I went, it's funny you say that, because I clocked it. And I said, what I was actually doing was making sure I was present. So when you brought the oats over, I didn't want to sit there texting or being on my phone while you sat there opposite eating, so it was rude. So I was like, oh, I'm closing down what I'm doing. I can come back to this message later. And then I explained to you, actually, it was my friend who I actually met yesterday, arranging meeting her. So you already knew, and I was very clear about it. And it's like, there was no hiding. It's like, I can show you the messages. Yeah. And you're like, no, it's not about that. I was like, but in my head, it's like, you could have made that into something that it wasn't. Yeah. And the fact I clocked it at that moment as well, I was very aware, which again comes to, what's the word? My awareness of situations, reading it. I was like, oh, that looked really dodgy. Yeah. But it wasn't. My intentions were, I want to be present. I'll come back to this message. If you just swipe up and close the app, it was there afterwards when I was done. So again, there's another thing of, you didn't hold that in and hold it against me in 4 weeks' time. Like, oh, you're being sneaky, being this, you're being that. You were like, oh, you did this thing. Like, it probably wasn't what I thought it was, but it kind of made me feel this way. And I was like, oh yeah, actually it was this. And you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I was like, I can show you if you want to. Yeah. So this one comes to when we said about the episode when we originally did my story. This was, I don't mind you look at my phone. So I've got nothing to hide. Yeah. So there's nothing on there that's dodgy at all. It was simply just coincidental that you walked over and I had to swipe up, and it happened to be a message on her, because it could have been on the sport app, it could have been on Instagram, it could have been on anything. It just happened to be a message.
Most likely going to have been on Villa Twitter.
There you go. So it could have been on anything. It just happened to be on a message to a girl, which obviously, again, you know the person who was someone I was meeting yesterday. But that's the difference, where you didn't let that build up, it exploded in an argument, you felt a certain way about it, you told me about it, and again, open honesty, there it is. So,
and for people that aren't used to dealing with that, from my perspective, it's not easy to get there. Like, I think, and we'll come on to trust and things like that a bit later, but I do think you need a relationship built on. Well, let's tie that in,
because let's go with this, because this is a big thing for you.
Yeah.
So what was that question? What was the actual question?
The question about trust. Do either of you have trust issues?
Yeah. So this is a big thing for you. So I'll let you talk on this. But that's a massive thing where you have found it so weird being in this relationship where there has been, you've literally just still freaked out where there's been no arguments, where I'm not trying to point score, where I'm not trying to belittle you, and it literally, you say it all the time, like, this is just really weird for me. It's taken you ages to get around it. Yeah. So could you want to talk on that?
Yeah. So I do think it's really hard, because I have, my past has not been perfect. And I think I've been in a lot of relationships. Like I say, there's been conflict, there's not been trust issues. And so, we are now in a relationship where we don't argue. I completely trust you with everything, including the most precious thing in my life, which is my child. You have access to my phone, which I've never had before. Some people asked on the back of that, well, why has Dan got access to your phone? Funny story, we went out hiking in Whitby ages ago, and it kept locking, and you couldn't remember my number. So I was like, just go on Face ID, because this is irritating me.
What do we need it for? We need it for
the map.
Oh, the map. That was it. Maps. Yeah, maps. Yeah.
And because everyone was like, well, is that because he didn't trust you? I'm like, well, no. Very simple explanation from back when we were friends, and I've never changed it, because
and again, and also out with fear as well, I need to pay for something, just Face ID and we do it. So it's just real simple. Again, because someone said the same thing to me about, it's like, no, it's got nothing to do with, it's just because you have access to something
doesn't mean that I've never been on your phone.
No, it's just like, I've got access to my mum's house, the keys, doesn't mean I go there all the time and use it. No, it's weird. Like, but if I need to use it, and that's what it's there for.
If not.
Exactly, and this is the thing, like, I trust you enough that I don't have to snoop through your phone. And that's the difference. The difference is, like, I don't have to snoop because I trust you. And so I don't like, and again, especially we're going to talk about it in a minute with the swinging stuff. The whole basis of that is trust. And the whole thing is, you knew me as a person before we started, so you knew everything about me, so you knew it. So I then couldn't start lying to you. So when we started dating, it was a complete, fresh, clean slate. I didn't need to lie about anything, about who I was, what my past was. This is me, and for the first time in my life, I don't get the anxiety of you near my phone. What's you going to find? I don't get the anxiety of, because literally I'll be texting, you'll be looking over my shoulder. Not in a weird way, but you'd be there. But before, like, oh, kind of like, because I was being sneaky. Whereas for the first time in my life, I don't have to pretend to be anyone. I can literally be me. I can show up. And it's what I'm saying before, when we've ever had conversations with, like, I completely trust you, but at the point I trust myself. I don't need to do anything. It's just completely changed the whole dynamic of it. And that kind of then, so do you want to say more on trust?
I think for me, what was I going to say? It is at that place where I do trust you, but having been in relationships.
Why do you trust me? Just throwing it out there, like for people, that's
Wow,
because people,
that is a really good
because people are like,
question.
well, why do you trust me?
So I think for me, our relationship was built on friendship. We helped each other with both stuff, and I think our personal values are aligned, and we helped each other to grow, and we've pushed each other to grow and be the people that we both want to be individually before we were even in a relationship. So I trusted you as a person before you were my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So then that was just a natural evolution from that. And like you say, I knew everything about you in your past. You knew everything about me in my past. And we were like, okay, that is okay. Because that past behaviour and what we've both done in the past, we can accept that that's not translating and that's not who we are now and how we are going to operate in a relationship now. But I think for me to build on that, I think it's what I found difficult is that I completely trust you. I know that you trust me, but when we are in a relationship, you act like your actions are aligned with what you say. So like you say, you know, you don't go through my phone, like you don't ask questions that previous people that I've been with have asked. You know, there isn't conflict and there isn't argument. And I think for me, this is going to sound potentially a bit bizarre to people. I found that hard. So the absence of being shouted at and conflicts and arguments has been really hard because me and my body in a relationship is used to that. It's used to that chaos. And then when it's not there, I think naturally sometimes you can try to get that from somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so glad you said that, because sometimes sometimes you've not done it for a while, but we had it out the other day. The other day, so everything's happened last week. But
your concept of time is also appalling.
where sometimes you try and get a rise. I don't think it's intentional, but sometimes you're wanting to get an emotional response out of me, and I have to make it very clear. And I will literally, the words that I used were, I'm not emotionally responding to this. You are not going to get the emotional response. I make it very clear to you, the response you're looking to get, you're not going to get from me. I'm very like, no, cutthroat. This is not, I know what you're doing. This is not going to happen.
And then sometimes on that, like, I don't, because it's been ingrained with me. What am I, 34? How long have I been an adult for? Like, what, 18 years or whatever? No, 16 years. It's like so within me. And then you say that, and I'm like, I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like,
I don't engage.
So you don't engage, and then that makes me think, and then I can kind of self-check and self-regulate.
And we've also had a conversation again, not recently, but about that doesn't mean I don't care, because I think for you were like, well, he's not emotionally responding. He's not doing this. Like, I'm trying to get a rise. He's not rising. He doesn't care. And I've had to explain to you, no, I care enough to not do this. I care enough about the relationship to not actually do what you want me to do. And it's not to say not that you want consciously on a subconscious level. And then it's like, it kind of then brings it back round of, oh, actually, this is why he doesn't raise his voice. This is why we're talking. This is why when I try and get a rise out of him, he doesn't bite. It's like, no, because actually I value the relationship more than hitting that quick thing. And again, it takes a lot to, and as you know, like, I am constantly on, like, for me to be, I say, I'm just going to say it, like, people listen to the podcast, you know, I vibrate on a good level. Yeah. Like, most of the time, you'll probably agree, you see me every single, I vibrate at a good level. I'm good most of the time. There's only a couple of things that knock me off, but for anyone to try and knock me off, good luck. Yeah. I think it happens. But I normally do it to myself more than no one does it. I do it to myself. But the difference with that is, like, you're not going to knock me. Yeah. Like, because I value myself over you getting your little weird fix, and I value our relationship over you. But that's the truth of it. And again, I'm literally not saying anything that I don't say to your face. No. So, but it might be weird for people listening to this, but I literally say this stuff to your face as we're doing it. And again, I'm not saying this is like, I don't coach you while we're doing it. So I'm making it very clear, like, I'm not like coaching you through while we're doing it, but I'm just very matter of fact about it. Yeah. Because I don't believe in wasting time, energy, or effort on things that aren't moving my life forward. Yeah. And again, as we said on the episode about me, I told you when we got together, my train's moving that way, you jump on board or you don't. And that makes me selfish, cool. And I even admit that I'm a little bit selfish. But actually, I don't care. I don't care because you knew me and what I was about before, and you agreed to sign up to it. And actually, for everything that I'm selfish with, I'm also very selfless. Yeah. So it's kind of finding that balance. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that, to tie that back around, we both knew what each other was like. Yep. We both knew, and there's a question on this later, but both knew, I guess, I hate this, but not strengths and weaknesses, but what we excel at, and then also what we both find difficult, and we were both aware of that. And back to your point of dating who is in front of you, not this potential. Like, potential is great, and being aligned and on that same train, bus, whatever, is fantastic, but you've got now. You know, who knows what the future holds for everyone. So next question, what we got? Next question. Does any more on that you want to touch on with the trust? No, I don't think so. Yeah, because big thing. Okay, so this is a random question. Is it okay
for your missus, oh, I hate that phrase, to dictate how a man dresses.
Yes. So, so this question actually aimed at me.
Clearly.
So yeah, I've got no issue saying that.
I've got issues with the word dictate.
Dictate? Yeah, you don't dictate.
I think it's a bit strong.
So let's just talk about this. Like when we first got together, to the person that I was then to where I am now, even long-term listeners to the podcast, you'll see the podcast has changed. I've changed. I've evolved, grown. The content has evolved, grown. I'm not the same person, and that's a conscious thing. And you'll also notice that how I dress. I used to wear the Prime Life Project hoodie and t-shirt, and that used to be representing all the time. I then realised that the person I want to be and show up as the world as, that doesn't dress like that. So I'm trying to dress as this different person. And obviously from your background of being upper middle class, I basically said to you, listen, can you kind of, I want to dress differently. How do I kind of do it? 'Cause I don't have good fashion sense. And this goes back to literal my entire life. I've always shopped with women. So if I ever need to buy a new wardrobe, if I go by myself, it's a white t-shirt, it's a black t-shirt, it's jeans, that's it, basic, beige, I don't care. I didn't even get white trainers, just black trainers, whatever. And then I had to go on a holiday once, and I got someone that's like a fashionista, like a proper actual fashion designer that went shopping with me. It was that holiday in Santorini that I mentioned on the podcast. Because I wanted to basically impress my ex-girlfriend so much. She was a friend of mine. She came shopping with me, and I looked insane. Like some of the colour combos, I looked so stylish. But I'd never pick it myself. Like some of this stuff. But then to the point now where like the pastel colours of the jumpers that I wear, even this jumper here, like the stuff that I wear, like you've basically said this look good on you. And then I trust you because you, again, can see this is where I want to go. Yeah. This is where I'm taking my business. This is how I want to show up. This is what the kind of those kind of people wear, because I got no concept of it. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's perfectly okay. But again, if your missus is literally dictating to you, you have to wear this. That's very different. You don't tell me anything. I've asked for your advice, and then you've basically said, I think these look good. I then pick what I think will suit me, because some things don't suit me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm never going to wear that. Yeah. But then other ones I'm like, actually, that's great. I would never have thought of that. Try it on. This is perfect. Like even down to this, I would never have got this fleece. Yeah. But you're like, oh, I think it's look good on you. Like, cool. Well, actually, it's really comfy, so I'll wear it. So yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, I don't really have anything to add on that, to be honest.
Well, I don't dress you, so I mean, it's relevant.
Okay. Go on. How do you deal with Katie's moments when she lacks any common sense?
And who said that?
My sister.
Your sister. Although these are anonymous questions,
she put her name on the end.
So she knew it was her. So Emily, thank you for this. So you're very, very smart. You're very smart. But you're book smart. You don't have street smarts. So again, we talk about when we knew each other beforehand. I knew that about you. Like you are not street smart, but you are very academic and book smart. Whereas I'm the opposite. Like I'm very street smart. I'm not necessarily, which again is why we complement each other so well. Yeah. So for me, this whole thing is the first time and only time I've ever actually shouted at you. Shouted full on, like shouted. And I want everyone to picture this. We're in Canada with Katie's family and Katie's dad, who's an absolute unit, and we've got this, so it's for Canada Day.
It's Canada Day.
So
summer.
When I used to live in America, there was these Dairy Queen ice cream cakes, and they are insane. I've always wanted to have one, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go buy one for everyone for this Canada Day. So we buy one, and then Katie then decides that she's going to cut the cake, and it's an ice cream cake, so it's very, very cold. So Katie then couldn't cut the cake properly. So she then decides to, bear in mind, this is a big, sharp kitchen knife. She decides to grab the blade of the knife, literally like a handshake, to then cut through the cake. Now, if anyone can envision this, if she then managed to cut through the cake, it would have sliced her fingers off because it had gone straight through and the knife would have gone through and it would cut off the top of all of her fingers. That's what was going to happen. So I was like, what the F are you doing? Literally shouted straight away. She's like, what? I'm like, you are literally grabbing the blade of the knife and pushing down on an ice cream cake, and it literally just severed it. It would have severed it because a sharp knife. It would have severed the fingers off.
Yeah, my hand would have been gone.
Yeah, I don't know what part of you, but that's the only time really that you've done anything like that. The rest of the time it's just minor stuff, and I just laugh.
Yeah, the rest of the time it's just like knives in the toaster, minor.
Yeah, but you've done it. Looking unplugged. It's just little minor stuff where, again, it's just funny. So it doesn't bother me. I see it for what it is. So I know that Emily finds that funny, but you do have your moments. I have my moments of stuff as well. I'm sure you've got to put up with, but it's not a big thing for me. Like it's little. I just laugh about it.
Good.
So that's the only time that I've ever shouted, which is understandable.
It was very understandable. I was actually, in hindsight, at the time, I was a bit like, "What?"
Yeah, what are you shouting at? Yeah.
But then I think it was then when everyone else kind of reinforced what you were saying. I was like, okay. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Oh, interesting. How do you deal with outside influences in your relationship and things like gossip?
Oh, how do you handle it first? I'll go to you. I'll flip back to you.
So gossip, I just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't care less. I don't really have much else to say on that. People can gossip about anything in life. Not my problem. I think outside influences is an interesting one. So for me, I have kind of lived my life where what other people think has been really important to me. And I think probably over the past 3 years, that is less so. I'm definitely more sure of who I am and what I want in life. And I'm not prepared to let people deviate me from that plan. And I think I've seen a lot of things around recently that, you know, you need to date someone that your family like, that your friends like, that this, that, da. No, you are the only person other than the other person that are in that relationship. And how you both are in that relationship, for me, is more important than great Aunt Jane and what she thinks about your relationship. Do you know what I mean? Like, really, I'm not that bothered. So yeah, that's kind of my very simplistic views on it.
But I also think with that as well, like, if you have a horrible track record of partners, and your friends are like, this guy is literally the same as all of your ex-partners, I think you probably should listen to what they're saying in that regard. However, if they've never met this person and they're just judging them on first looks, first impressions, that's a different thing. So again, don't necessarily have a bad relationship with your family, especially like your dad's side, like fantastic, and again your sister and one of your brothers, like fantastic. Is your other brother that we've got an issue with, and if he's listening to it, hello. Don't think he will be, probably his girlfriend, who again I don't have a problem with. But it's then like friends as well. Like, I've not really met many of your friends, which is quite interesting. Like, you've met a lot more of my friends than I've met yours. But I think you're right. Like, when it comes to influences, I don't really care. I've got to the stage now where I trust myself, and I've got enough self-awareness to know if I've made a mistake, if things aren't right. Because I think the worst thing you can do in a relationship is you go and speak to your friends about your partner and start bitching. Because then your friend will only hear the worst things about your partner, because you're not going there and talking about all the amazing things they do. So then your friend then builds up that your partner is a dick, is not a nice person. So then whenever there's a bit of a conflict, you then go to that friend, and your friend thinks that your partner isn't a good person, so they're always going to side with you, back you up, when actually they've got a bias. So then actually you might end up breaking up or having resentment towards your partner for no reason. So my genuine opinion is, again, people can do what they want, I don't really care, but my genuine opinion is, stop speaking to your friends about your partner. It's none of their business, because you're never going to go there and get the response that you want, and you think that your friend's there to help you, but what you're doing is just giving them confirmation bias to your point of view. So if you're the victim of this situation, even though it might not be the victim, for example, that cake situation. So again, if you're going to tell your friends, oh, Dan shouted at me, Dan, and it's like, what? It's like, I was just cutting this cake, and then he shouted at me from the whole family, and it made me feel the same way. Oh, Dan's such a dick. But actually, you haven't held the whole thing. You then are basically, again, you like, I'm the victim, you shouldn't have shouted at me. You go and tell your friends that you're the victim, and then your friends confirm you're the victim, and then your friends now think I'm a dick. And it's just, again, and that's an extreme example, but it's very easy for outside influences to then to affect your relationship. But actually, if you two are on the same page and you've got that trust and that openness, it shouldn't matter what anyone else says. Unless it's something like, oh, by the way, do you know that your girlfriend's sliding into my DMs? That's a different thing. That's outside influence, where you've got to kind of be like, what? Take it a bit seriously. But apart from that, I don't really care. Like, it's no one's business. Like, I mean, that's so possible. I don't care what your family think of me. I'm not bothered. And again, I don't think you really care about what your family think of me.
I love your family, but I'm in a relationship with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not your family.
And again, same with friends. It's like,
in a relationship with you, not your friends.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm not here to be friends with your friends. Like, I obviously spoke to some of them, they follow me on Instagram and stuff, but like, if I met them, it's like, they're not really my cup of tea. Well, it's not my business. They're your friends, they're not my friends. So it's like, cool, I'll put up with them for the sake of that. And that, for me, when it comes to influences, it is hard. Especially at the start as well, when we got together in such a situation, the whole thing around that, there was a lot of people that potentially did have an opinion. I don't care. I don't, unless you're going to come to me directly and ask me my opinion, you can gossip as much as you want. I don't care. And with the whole situation of the gym, the biggest thing from that episode was that most people were like, I had no idea. No, you didn't, because I didn't talk about it. I literally left my head held high because I did nothing wrong. But the amount of gossip that was told about me, which is hilarious, because on my phone I've got all the evidence to back up everything that I say. Everything I said in that episode, I've got all the evidence to back it up. So they can gossip as much as they want. I know the truth. I don't care. And the same is the situation between me and you. I know the truth. People can gossip as much as they want. I don't care. It does not bother me, because I know the truth. And as long as I know the truth, that's it. Now, if I'm lying to myself, that's a different ballgame. If I'm lying to myself and trying to convince myself of something that's true and it's not, then that's on me. But actually, I know myself well enough to not lie to myself.
And I think the only...
does anyone know a good videographer that's... I don't know if anyone could hear that, but Mikey's phone just went off in the background. So, yeah, taking on applications. Hit me up on Instagram.
That's a slide into the DMs.
Yeah, slide into the DMs. Go on, off we go. What was the next one?
And I think for me, that when I just said I don't let gossip affect me, that was probably the last time I did, in the sense of we were in that place where we weren't together, we were really good friends, and we were very much like, we are not ever going to be together because we've said we're not going to be together. And from my perspective, I was letting kind of outside influences and what people thought of me affect my decision making. Yeah. And then I was like, hang on a minute, why am I letting other people rule my life?
Yeah, because I had someone message me and saying like, oh, you said that you'd never go out with someone who's got a kid. Yeah, change my mind. I'm sorry, because I said something once, it means I can't change my mind. So I'm just like, and again, you said you never go out with Katie. Yeah, because I had no intention of going out with Katie. Yeah. I genuinely had no intention of going out with you. So it doesn't mean I lied. It means I changed my mind. Yeah. And I'm more than entitled to change my mind if situations and circumstances and situations change. And that's what people couldn't understand. Yeah. And there was a lot of people at that time as well that were close to us, then turned out they weren't as close to us as potentially we thought. And again, go and gossip as much as you want. Yeah. They know the truth as well. But again, people love gossip. Yeah. So if people want to, I'm so above gossip. I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Like I said, I'm trying to vibrate at a level, and in the nicest way possible, and then with the utmost respect and genuine no disrespect. In 10 years' time, the people at that place and a certain person are going to be of complete irrelevance to my life. Yeah. They're just going to be a story that I tell on stage, and that's it. So I really don't care. Yeah. Like, and it's taken me, again, even when I talk about it, and from the last episode, it does still affect me to more than I thought it did, but it's less than it used to. Yeah. So for me, I know that it is part of the journey. It is what it is. I'm not bothered by gossip. Outside influence can only ruin your relationship if you let it. It's like a ship. Like, water can only sink a ship if you let the water inside. So outside influence and gossip can only ruin your relationship if you let it. Yeah. So that's my opinion with it. I'd rather speak to you about something that I hear than just listen to the gossip, because that's also what people do. They listen to the gossip and don't actually speak to their partner about it, which then comes back to the trust and communication we spoke about. Yeah. And they're probably going off a story they've got inside their head, not actually the reality. Yeah, agreed. Okay. How do you balance everything when you're in a relationship? Well, this is more probably for you, because you balance a lot. You've got 2 jobs, a kid. Yeah, I guess for me, and I guess also this probably touches on why we work so well. We're both very much like routine, scheduled time and everything like that. I think if we were both very free-spirity, we would struggle, and we would struggle to make time for each other and time for the relationship. But I think you've spoken about it in the past, like we schedule date night every week. Do we schedule it, or do I schedule it? No, you schedule it. I schedule it, because I need to tell my date, Okay. Yeah. So you schedule date night. No, date night's mine. Like, don't try and take that from me. No, with me though. Yeah. No, I mean, like, that's my idea. Don't try and take that. It was your idea, and that was a really good idea. So we have that in, and we also try to make time to, for example, go and get our steps in at the same time, just to kind of catch up throughout the week and stuff like that. But for me, it is difficult. Like you say, I do have 2 jobs. I have a child. I play hockey multiple times a week. I'm in a relationship with you, and which again, let's talk about the hockey. You stopped playing hockey. I didn't make you, but I suggested you go back and play hockey again, because I noticed that you, like, it was affecting you. Yeah. Like, there was part of you that you were missing. I was like, I think you should start playing hockey again. You were against it, so we're just going to play one game. Yeah. And then that was it. You got back into it again. Yeah. So that's also, again, me knowing you on that level. Yeah. I was just like, something's not quite right here. And we had a conversation about it. I was like, I think you need to start playing hockey again. Yeah. So again, we then made it work. Because again, that then takes up a lot of my time, because I go and watch you. So again, that's more time that I don't have. But it's like, well, actually, the bigger picture, it makes you feel better. And whilst I know you're not my wife, but happy wife, happy life. It's like, actually, if you're in a better place, it makes my life easier. Yeah. So it's like, well, what can I do? So for me, with the balance, to sort of tie back to me, it's like I've got my schedule, I've got my routine, and again, I'm very selfish. However, when things need doing, I will do it. Yeah. So for example, there's days where I know you're busy in the morning, I can see you're frustrated, I'll take Theo to school. Yeah. So you've not asked me to do that, but I can see you're busy. I can actually then move my schedule. I'm still busy. It's like, but I can move that. And again, you say, oh, can you pick him up? Yeah. Or I've got this meeting in the evening. Can you look after him? I'm very flexible, and I'm very lucky because I'm self-employed, so I get that. I know everyone doesn't have that, but I will move my schedule around. Then there's other times with like, I am not going to compromise, especially during the day. Yeah. It's like, I need this space. And I've said to you sometimes, you can't work in the office because you're a distraction. Yeah. And that's me being selfish, completely selfish. But you can go and do your stuff in the, you've again got a nice pension. It's not like a poverty kitchen. But it's like, sometimes like, I should articulate that because we had that thing where actually I didn't articulate that, and then we ended up bashing heads. Yeah. So we had a conversation about it. We've come to a conclusion. Now, that means you still do work in here, but more often than not, if I've got something busy that I need doing, that's that. And then the balance again is with communication. You can see my diary, so I can see yours as well. So we can, when I'm booking things in, it's like, oh, is this going to conflict and blah 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 blah. So again, it's just what you want to prioritize. I think a lot of times in relationships, because when I say I'm being selfish, I'm selfish to grow the business and grow the business because then it helps all of us, like you, Theo, as well. So it's for everyone's thing essentially. But it's not selfish in the fact of that it's causing you guys any harm. No. So I'm not like, do you know what I mean? I'm not, what's the word? I'm not selfish in a negative way in the sense of it affects you guys at all. It's just, I know I'm very respectful of my time. Yeah. Is that making sense with this? Like, you know what I'm saying with this, don't you? Like, I don't take the piss.
No. And I think for me, it is that it comes back to teamwork and stuff. So we both have a lot going on. Yeah. We both are very busy people. We prioritize that time for each other. We also why can't I speak today? Prioritize time for kind of you, Theo, and I to do stuff. You know, we go to Villa and we do all of that great stuff, which is awesome. But then let's bring it back to before we were together. We were both fiercely independent people that enjoy spending time on their own. And to your point about the office, I think we both realised that actually sometimes it is annoying being in each other's space when we've both got calls or trying to listen or whatever. So we have kind of separated physically that a little bit and where we need to.
Yep.
And I think for me, balance is different and it changes, and there's no such thing as, I guess, perfect balance. And
I use a Rubik's Cube analogy. I speak about progress all the time.
Yeah,
like you can't, it changes.
You can't, and it is evolutionary. And to your point about the time thing, like I do have a lot going on. Like I do a lot of the stuff in the house, like the laundry and the food prep and all of that stuff. But equally, you can see, hang on, Katie's doing this and this morning. In an hour, she can get that all done if I take Theo to school. And actually, then
do stuff in the morning. Yeah. So while you're doing it all in the morning, so again, I don't mean to caveat that. Like again, yes, you do the food prep, but normally when you're doing that, what am I doing? I'm looking after Theo. Yeah. So then you don't have to mum. Yeah. Because like I said, if you didn't have to mum, you then couldn't do all the other stuff you want to do, and then you won't have time to then do your job. So again, and that's what I'm saying. So
it's just a team. It's just making it work, and it's give and take. And I don't think being in a team is 50-50 all the time, if any of the time. I think it's always push and pull, and I think that changes. You know, there's other times where, for example, you know, on an evening where I don't know, you're on the radio or something, then I'm like, actually, I now have 3 hours to absolutely smash out all of your invoicing, all of this, all of that, all the other. And it's just kind of making sure that over the course of the week, everything gets done and everything's satisfactory and everyone is content.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, I'm trying to think about the word selfish and trying to just find that a bit better, because it's still, because I've used that word quite a lot. I don't think I'm selfish. I just prioritise myself. Yeah. So I think selfish is the wrong word. I just prioritise myself pretty much all the time, unless I can see it's going to affect you or Theo, and then I'll then shift it, if that makes sense. But I'll always prioritise myself rather than being the people pleaser. Yeah. And that's the difference. So I've used the word selfish a lot. I don't think it's selfish. That's the wrong word. It's I prioritise myself because I know that if I don't prioritise myself, I then can't be the best version of myself. It then affects every area. Yeah. However, if I said you need me to look after Theo when he was doing something, then the priorities shift. But any other time, I'm not going out of my way to people please for you because you don't need me to people please for you. You can look after yourself. Yeah. Yep.
And probably, I'll just skip to this question because I think it's probably relevant, is how have you adapted to having a little person in your life, and like what are the best bits, what are the worst bits? Because obviously, like you touched on, you said to somebody one time, you never want children, you never want to be in a relationship with somebody that has a child or children. Obviously we are in a relationship and I have a child. So kind of how have you adapted to that, and what are the best and worst bits?
It's been an easy adaptation because I'm not his dad, so I'm not trying to be his dad. So I think that's a key thing of when you've said before about how close his relationship is, because I've not tried. I've not tried to be anything to him. I've just been me. So how and again, as bizarre as it sounds, I just show up as me. I'm not trying to impress, show up. I'm just, this is me. Yeah. So I play computer games with him. He loves it. And again, he tries to beat me and cheat sometimes. So I'll call him out on it. Yeah. And again, if he lies, I'll call him out on it. So the other day, he basically was doing something when we were playing Sonic Races. He did something and I saw him do it. He then asked me a question. I said, no, because you were doing this. And he says, you're not telling the truth. I said, you are lying. And he says, no, you're not telling the truth. I says, you are lying. We don't lie. Lying is very bad. So again, I hold the line with him. Like I'm mates with him. We play computer games all the time. And that's the thing. I'm his mate. I'm not trying to be his dad because I'm not his dad. However, I will hold that line. You do not lie. You do not speak to mummy like that. Mummy said this. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. So it's that boundary. He knows where he stands with me. Yeah. That if I'm saying something, he knows he's done wrong. Yeah. Because I don't get involved unless I need to, because it's not my place. I'm not there to parent him. Yeah. I'm there to almost be like that guide for him. Yeah. And again, we have real deep chats about stuff. Like he talks to me about his mind and his emotions. Yeah. And again, that was the thing that you found the most bizarre. He'll ask for you to talk to me about, so I then go talk about his emotions. Yeah. And it's like, I've not spoke to him about that. He just seems drawn to me. And again, I think when it comes down to the energies, well, again, whatever you want to believe, I don't care. When you're vibrating at a certain level, you attract the right kind of people. And I think kids very much pick on energy.
100%.
So if he's
kids and animals.
Exactly. So if he's seeing my energy, he's just feeling a certain way. I want that energy. So it's not necessarily he wants me, he wants the energy. Yeah. So if I didn't have the energy, he wouldn't then specifically want me. So for me, it's been a really easy transition because I've just been me. I've not tried to be anything. Yeah. It just so happens that there's a person now in my life that happens to be 4, nearly 5. That's it. That's it. I'm not seeing it as anything else than that. The best bits are that I began helping ride the bike, which again is something I didn't want to have to do, but it was. It happened. It happened that way. Like I guess at a certain age, someone else doesn't want to do it, then I've got to do it. So that was again one of the proudest moments of my life. But again, with that, I said this at the time, felt a lot of guilt because that was one of the proudest moments of my life, and I felt I'd taken that from someone. Yeah. But then equally, if the other person's not going to step up, it's about him, the little person, not me.
Always prioritising.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But that was a very proud moment for me. These little moments like that, and also my communication style, I think, has improved because I've had to explain stuff to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. And as that old saying goes, if you can't explain it to a 4 or 5-year-old, you don't really understand it. Yeah. So the other day when he was struggling at bedtime and he's talking to you about his thoughts, you have to go deal with that. I obviously got thrown in the deep end.
I could, and I reflect on that because I was like, I can't articulate this right now.
But so then
at his level.
So I had no idea what had gone on, and you need to go talk to him about his thoughts. So then I then literally went and started to explain, but again, because I understand it. And say if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, don't really understand it. Yeah. And that's the thing now where I'm learning to communicate with a 5-year-old, which then shows me actually do know what I'm talking about. I knew what I was talking about anyway, but it really shows that. So that's the best part. The worst parts is I hate crying kids. I hate it. I still hate it. It winds me up, especially fake crying. I understand it's part. I understand. I get it's kids, but that for me is why that's why I've always not wanted kids in my life. I just hate crying, whining kids. Now, luckily, Theo's not like that at all. Like he does have his moments because he's still 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. I say 4 or 5 because he's going to be 5 literally in a couple of weeks. But that's the thing for me. I don't like it. I've got no time for it. But that's it. But that's it. So that's it. He's not like that at all. He's just a great kid. Like Jamie's a really, really good kid. He's really well mannered, really well behaved most of the time. But then So for me, it's been a real easy transition. To be fair. Yep.
And now you've got a football buddy.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, and a follow-on from the follow-on. Do you get on with Katie's ex for the sake of the little boy?
No. In a blunt answer, if anyone wants to understand more of that, they can go and listen to the episode where I shared my story. But I want to make it very, very clear, very crystal clear. As far as Theo's concerned, me and his dad are best mates. Theo will never hear a bad word about his dad come out of my mouth. And I made that very clear. Bear in mind, if you saw the episode where I shared my story, you will see my views towards his dad. I've got no intention of changing that at all. I've got no intention of engaging with him. We've got a birthday party. I make it very clear whether he listens to this or someone listening to this that knows him, I'm not going to talk to him. I've got no intention. However, I will put on that happy face with best mates for Theo. Yeah. And again, a caveat to that, people can say what they want. I really don't care. When the other person we're talking about in this situation decides to tell a 3-year-old that they hate their mummy and they hate me, that for me crosses the line of just confirming the kind of person that they are. Because when Theo talks to me about his daddy, he idolises him like a god. Yeah. Now, bear in mind, I can't stand the guy. Yeah, I put all that to the side and I will play along like his dad is a god because that's how it needs to be. Yeah. When someone's going into your child's life and adding and providing how I have done, bearing in mind the whole situation, for that person to then tell their child, who is sweet and innocent and should not understand at that age what the word hate means, to tell that child that they not only hate that person, but they hate that person's mum, that for me is inexcusable. And people can say whatever they want about that, that's inexcusable. Yeah. So I've got no intention of building any bridges. I've got no intentions of being busy mates. I don't care if he changes. I've got no intent. I don't want that kind of person in my life. It just so happens that he has to be in my life because obviously it's his child that I'm spending most of my time with. But that doesn't affect anything of how I show up to Theo. Yeah. I'm not going to change anything. Like I said, as far as Theo's concerned, we're busy mates. Yeah. Because even after that I said, but my daddy doesn't like you. I said, that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. So I had the conversation and nipped in the bud. And I think since then, he's had to change his tune. Yeah. Because he's realised that I'm not going anywhere and he's realised that Theo likes me. So for me, I know it's a bit of a ranty thing, but it bothers me in that sense. Like, and I think a lot of people struggle with this. But if you're in this situation to myself, whether it's a mum or a dad, you've got to put your ego to the side and do what's best for the little person or people. Yeah. Like whatever that person's done to you or your partner in the past, you have to do what's right by the kids. The kids will figure it out by themselves. Yeah. Like, rightly or wrongly, and it's not your place to say, because at the end of the day, if Theo thinks until he's an adult that his dad is the best person ever in the world, amazing.
Yeah.
100% fantastic. Like, you've got to arrange a relationship with your dad, amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You figure that out by yourself, that's amazing. Like, that's no one, especially mine, not my place to say anything.
Yeah.
It's not my part. And again, if you're coming into a kid's life as well, and again, whether or not you know the ex-partner, you should not be influencing that child in any way, shape, or form. That's my opinion. Yeah. You are not that kid's biological parent. You should not be bad-mouthing. You should not be saying a single bad thing about that parent. You can say it to other people, but you do not say it to that child or anywhere near that child. As far as that child's concerned, especially if they worship and idolize that person, you have to play along. Yeah. As simple as that. Like, I've got no time for anyone to tell me any different, because you don't understand how much you can mess up a child by saying certain stuff like that. And yeah, hopefully the other person involved gets on board with the same page. But if they don't, that's his problem, not my problem. Yeah,
and I think so many people do struggle with that, the whole co-parenting thing and being in a new relationship and everything like that. And it is difficult, especially when you're on such different pages, because on paper, co-parenting, having a new relationship should be really, really easy. There is no reason for it to be difficult. It can be very transactional, and there's no need, if everyone remains positive. But unfortunately, it's not like that. And I found that hard because some of the things have happened and things like that. But I think, to use the phrase that you always use, is you've got to do what's right, not what's easy. And that's what we kind of
and again, the situation has massively improved. Just for anyone listening that knows this person, like, to give him his dues, he has stepped up. But the reason why he's done that is because I think he realises that I'm not going anywhere. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday that I met up with, and they had it with their partner, their ex-partner. That actually they wanted nothing to do with the kid. And as soon as they got a new partner, the dad suddenly wanted to get involved and step their game up. And I think that's the kind of thing where, again, I'm cool with that. I don't have an issue, because at the end of the day, I want him to have a good relationship with his kid. That's fundamentally, that's all I want. Like, I shouldn't have had to teach him how to ride his bike. That should not be my role. Don't get me wrong, I loved it was great, but I shouldn't have to do these things. I mean, I will do them because it's what's best for Theo. But again, for me, I think he's turned a corner, hopefully. But again, I don't believe a single thing, so we're just going to see where time goes with that. But also a caveat to that as well is, if you're thinking, and this is from a male perspective as well, perspective, like ex-fuckboy Daniel, if you're a male, woman as well, but mainly male, and you don't have your shit together, let's say, don't have your shit together, do not get involved with a woman that has a kid. Yeah. Because that's luckily something that, again, every now and again, a little bit like dated people, but thank God I never actually went in a relationship with one, because the stuff that I'd have passed on to that kid inadvertently, and even getting that kid's life, because then when you leave, when you know you're not ready to be in that relationship, as you mentioned earlier on, to link it all the way back, you're now not just affecting that woman, you're affecting that kid as well. So this goes to any guy listening to this. Like, if you're genuinely thinking about getting into an actual committed relationship with someone who's got a kid or kids, like, take a long, hard look at yourself and commit to it and be there. This is a long game, because you're now not just breaking up with the mother, you're breaking up with a little person that could break their heart as well. So that's a big thing to really pay attention to. And it's not going to be easy, especially if you're coming in, whatever the age the kid is. The kid may hate you. Okay, understand that's okay. Do you know what I mean? That's okay. Like, you just got to, again, do what's right, not what's easy. And if the kid, again, it goes for women as well, because sometimes, again, the male's got the kid and the kid may hate you. Okay, do what's right. Because over time, I think the kid's just testing the boundary. And that for me is the biggest thing, of like, just do the right thing and just make sure you're ready for the long game.
Yeah, and a couple of questions that I had on the back of this was, how do you introduce somebody to your child? And I guess I don't really have an experience of answering that, in the sense that we were friends for such a long time before we were together.
I was introduced as a friend.
Yeah,
this is my
friend
Dan.
like, literally. I think we were on a walk and whatever. But so it was different for me, because Theo knew you and knew who you were and everything. So I can't really answer that. But I think for me, it's just, the advice I would give on that is just make sure you're sure before you introduce somebody into a little person's life who by definition, the fact that you are dating somebody has clearly had some kind of breakup trauma with their parents. So just to be really mindful of that. Yeah, I think it's a key thing. How many questions have we got left? We've just come to the hour mark. Just a couple.
Okay, let's bash through these.
So, okay, what is the quality you most value in the other person, and what is the most irritating thing?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh, don't do that to me.
You literally list off all these things, so you know.
I know, I'm not good. So what quality do I value most? For me, I would say it's like, probably like the teamwork and the words that you choose to use. So things like, if I'm struggling, or if I'm stuck, or if there's a problem, or if I'm upset, you will use the word we. So you will kind of say, like, we will get through this, or we'll sort a solution out to this problem. And that in that moment, it just makes me feel safe and that I'm not alone and I'm not dealing with something on my own, and it becomes a team and it becomes a collaboration. So that's what I would probably say. Most irritating. I mean, you've said we're on the hour mark. So for me,
you can be honest. I don't care.
I will be honest. Like, but the small scale irritating, like leaving clothes on the floor, but that's really boring. Most irritating. So one of the most things that I value in you is your drive, your determination, like where the business is going and everything like that. And I like admire that so much, and it's something that's really important to me. But equally, sometimes you're so on here, you can't see something here that is important for here, and you've got to be in that headspace to listen to that. But sometimes I'm like, you really need to know this now, but you're like, no, I'm doing this, I'll talk to you later. Or, do you know what I mean? And that's just, I'm like, you're losing out here, and it's just really effing irritating. And
if anyone wonders what we had a conversation about yesterday, you're now getting an insight into it. So there we go. Surprise! If you're here to the end, that's basically what we talked about yesterday. So there we go. Comes full circle.
And yeah, it's just really annoying because I'm like, I have something here that will help you, and naturally, I am not a very assertive person in the sense. I'm not like, you need to listen to this. That's not my style. And then I just get more and more irritated, which again is probably on me, but sometimes you're so tunnel visioned, the outside things coming in, is a bit annoying when you don't listen.
I had a conversation about this year, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, so there's nothing else to say. You go. I'm a bit like nervous.
And again, as I said before, like I was very clear that I fully own that as well. So, as I mentioned this on the podcast, what's the question? Things that you value.
What is the quality you most value in the other, and what's the most irritating thing?
Honesty and trust is a big thing about yourself. Like again, from day one, you've said that trust is one of the biggest things. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I value, especially with the stuff that we do as well. Trust is a big thing, like number 1, 100%. But trust in me as well. So the fact that you trust in me is a big thing. So you trust in me sometimes, I don't trust in myself. Well, I don't trust myself, but I maybe need a bit of a bit doubt myself. So that's a big thing that I really, really value. And annoying things, again, so many. Like your ridiculousness with cleaning is insane. The fact that you clean before the cleaner comes baffles me. And in fact, I put my keys down, I turn around to get a drink and my keys are hanging up.
But we have a key hook.
I'm joking. But honestly, genuinely, it's just little things. But again, a lot of the stuff, I've always told you about it, which there really isn't much. Like, the things that annoyed me were, that you used to keep things to yourself. That bothered me. Is the fact that you used to go to a little princess mode to try and get a reaction. And essentially, again, you don't. So all this stuff, we had a conversation about it. So there's nothing that really bothers me, because it's like, and again, it's not that I've changed you. I've made you aware that you were doing it out of old habits. Yeah. And it's like, you don't need to do this. So then you've stopped. So that makes sense. It's not like I'm like, oh, you need to change. It's like, no. It's like, I know what the person you are is. Like, I know who you are. And it's like, how you were acting was old you, and it was, you were trying to get a response that you didn't need to get. So it's like, it wasn't not as I was trying to change you. Like, oh, it's like, no. So for me, yeah, it's just a little like the cleaning weirdness. But apart from that, it's also nice to have a nice clean house. So I'm also not arguing. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. From now on, you can do some of the time.
There we go. So we're going to pick one more question.
Okay. So this is an interesting one to end. How do you avoid cheating on Katie? And does swinging meet that need?
Great question. How to avoid cheating on Katie? Very, very easily, because the reason I cheated before had nothing to do with the person. So, like the last relationship I mentioned about, the person was incredible. Like, literally don't have a bad thing to say about them. They were an amazing human being. I do not have a bad. I was a problem in that relationship, and I basically realised that I was the issue. And so, when it comes to cheating, and this was saying that cheating's never, in my opinion, my experience, cheating's never about the person. So if you cheat on someone, it's not about that person. Yeah. It's normally you're not having your needs met. And it's not even necessarily from that person. Just in life, you may not be having your needs met, and you think that by doing this thing, you're going to have a need met. Yeah. Like, you're feeling a certain way, and you want to not feel this way, so you associate doing this thing with that, or you want to self-sabotage, because again, you don't think that you're good enough, and you've got this person who I've had this multiple times. This person is incredible, like, they're giving you all this love, and you feel you don't need that. So I'm gonna go and cheat with the hope that I'll probably get found out, so then they leave me because they're gonna leave me anyway. But at least I'm in control of the situation. Exactly. So for me, the reason why I won't cheat, well, first of all, we'll talk about the swing in a second. But regardless of that, like, I know myself enough now that I can communicate with the whole trust thing. If I'm feeling a certain way. Because we've said this before, like, we got to a certain stage where, let's use a swinging, got to a certain stage where I had not slept with someone else for a while. Yeah. And I said to you, I was like, I'm starting to get that feeling that I used to get when I wanted to cheat.
Yeah.
So I just said it outright.
Yeah, yeah.
So just like, I'm starting to get that feeling. And it was really bizarre for me because like, oh wow, like, this is what it feels like. Whereas previously I wouldn't even thought about it. Previously, I'd already gone and cheated.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is really interesting. So that's why I then sat with that. And this we're talking about now, what, 6, 8, 10 months ago-ish, yeah? Yeah, months ago, nearly a year ago. So again, I then was like, oh, this is really interesting. I went and sat with that. So like, what's this feeling? And that's what it was. Whenever I was cheating, I got this feeling. I then went to go have sex with somebody else to then get the reward that I wanted. This is why I talk on the podcast about trigger, action, reward. Yeah. I had this trigger of this feeling a certain way. And again, I was then like, oh, I need to then have sex to get the reward that I'm seeking, which is the opposite powers feeling. Yeah. But then when I sat there, I was like, oh, this isn't it at all. Yeah. I just literally sat with this feeling like, well, that's not it. So for me, when it comes to swinging, it literally swings like, oh, actually, as someone that literally sleeps with so many women, I was like, I've actually not slept with someone else for a while. This is weird. So I even said, she's like, well, this is really weird. So then again, we went and organised something. It was great. Yeah. So for me, like, just swinging scratch itch, yeah. And the way that I describe it, I think I can't remember. Did you use the ice cream analogy on the last episode?
My ice cream analogy.
Yeah. So again, for the people that didn't know that, when it comes to swinging, which is a lot more common than what you think. Again, it's for me, ice cream. Like I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. You give me mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's amazing. We're very, very compatible. Like you fulfill all my needs. Brilliant. But every now and again, you kind of want strawberry or you want rum and raisin, or you want just normal chocolate, vanilla, whatever it is. Like we want a different flavour ice cream, or even you want mint choc chip, but a different brand. Yeah. So again, we met a couple the other day. Literally, the person was almost identical to you, and it's bizarre. Me and the partner were laughing, but we literally laughing our heads off. It was like,
it's like 2 for 1.
But it was just different. And the whole thing is, it's like the trust is there, and I'm not doing it for any other reason. It's just something different, and that's it. And it's that for me. Yes, it scratches that itch, but even if that wasn't there, I still wouldn't cheat. Because there's something within me that I've worked out on why I did that. It was me that was the issue. It wasn't having the sex, the external thing wasn't the thing. That wasn't the thing.
And that's very rarely why people cheat. Just to have sex with somebody else.
But then this is also when it comes to communication. So if there's something that you need sexually, and it's the thing, people don't talk about sex. People probably cringing that we're talking about swinging. Like people hate talking about sex. Sex is a massive part of relationships. Yep. And if you've got a need or a desire, so I'm just going to completely throw something out there. I don't care what anyone thinks of it. Let's say anal sex. Yeah. Let's say anal sex is your thing, and your partner's not into it, but you absolutely love it. Yeah. Can you go the rest of your life without it? If the answer is no, then you're going to go and cheat because at some point you're going to want it. Exactly. You're either going to pay for it or you're going to go find somebody that offers it, whatever it is. Yep. But if you're having that conversation, listen, this is really important to me, but like, is there any reason why you're not into it? Can we do it? Oh, I had a very bad experience when I was young. Oh, okay. But actually, because again, I know someone's done this and someone's literally then paid for them to go and see somebody else. They've literally paid for their partner because they wanted it. They didn't want to provide it. So again, I know that's the thing. But people don't want to talk about it. And actually what you find is that, again, when it comes to swinging, it's like, oh, I want to sleep with somebody else. And then like, I don't want my partner to do that. So have the conversation. Yeah. Have the conversation because you don't actually know. Because maybe your partner's got no interest in sleeping with other guys, but actually you've said it. And maybe they're very heavily bisexual. Yeah. And actually maybe they wanted to explore with girls. Okay, well, have that conversation.
And you're never, as a guy, going to be able to meet that need.
Exactly. So it's not about you. Yeah, so when it comes to swinging, and you know this, it's not about you. Yeah. And you know the same thing. It's not about me. That's what I'm saying. Like, also, Kate goes with the guys. Yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm so comfortable within myself, sexually, and our relationship that it does not bother me.
And I think people need to reframe it. So people think that people go into swinging or whatever because something is missing. No, most people go into it, if they're going into it for the right reasons, to add on. Yeah. It's to add something extra as opposed to fill a gap.
Yeah, because that's what normally happens is like the guy wants to do it, but the girl doesn't. But then the girl's a people pleaser. Really common. And I've had that before because again, I was swinging before I got with you as well. And literally, I met a woman from a couple, and she was not into it. And after we spoke about it afterwards, and she was like, "Yeah, my kind of partner was like not forcing her, is wrong with it, like I'm doing it for him." And literally had a whole full-blown conversation about it. Yeah. And then she ended up breaking up with him in the end because like, I don't want this. She's like, I do not want this, but I feel like if I don't do this, then he's going to leave me. Yeah. So I had a full-blown conversation about it. I was like, this is not cool. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, it should be something that you want to do. Yeah. You feel safe, you feel comfortable. And she's like, no, I'm just only doing it because he wants it. It's like, that's not how this should be.
And that's not how it should be. Anything in a relationship.
No.
You shouldn't people please. And I think whatever you do, whether it be swinging or whatever you do in your relationship, it's got to be based on trust. You've got to communicate.
It has to be trust. Yeah. It has to be trust. And that's the thing. Like, if I don't trust you, how am I going to go let you sleep with another guy? If you don't trust me, how are you going to let me sleep with another woman? How is it going to work? And that's the thing for me. That's just the epitome of trust. I'm not saying you've got to do this to prove that you trust each other. No. It's not about that. No. But it's like everything comes from trust. Yeah. And again, it's like communication, the expectation. What do you want out of this? So I already know what you want out of it.
Yeah.
What do I want out of it? You already know.
Yeah.
And if we're being completely honest, like we get it perfectly met.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling a certain way. Like the other day, I was like, oh, not this one. Like, oh yeah, well actually, let's go sort that out.
Yeah.
But,
and sort it out, done. Everyone's happy.
And that's the point. And again, actually, you meet some great people out of it as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and honestly, people think, oh, it's just like
seedy,
seedy. No, we have honestly met some amazing people that are actually really good friends of ours now. Yeah. Because actually, those kind of people that are in it for the right reasons, you've got similar values.
Yep.
You're very aligned.
Yep.
So it's also a great way to meet other new cool people.
Yep. So there we go. Great question. Great questions. No, we'll leave it there. But honestly, these questions have been absolutely fantastic. So again, thank you for everyone actually, because again, they're anonymous. I don't know who asked the questions, but some really good questions. Hopefully that's added some sort of insight and value. If you've got any follow-on questions, if you're on YouTube, put them in the comments below and we'll get on that. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to give us a follow. Katie, thank you very much.
No worries.
Bye-bye.